have an electric vehicle? Do you plan on exclusively having an electric vehicle? Or are you in the camp that kind of worries about what the future holds if we all just have electric vehicles? Good morning. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. Springfield's News and Talk, and you can always chime in live and local at 217-629-7970. I'd love to get your thoughts on this. As we hear, of course, what's going to be talked about over at the World Economic Forum and the push even here in Illinois to have more electric vehicles on the roads. Then you've got some ancillary stories about Rivian, for instance, in hot water because you've got auto dealers that are frustrated that some of these electric vehicle manufacturers are selling directly to customers instead of going through a dealership of sorts. And Tesla's gotten some flack because they've lowered the price of their electric vehicles. You've got taxpayers that are paying for electric vehicles. In Illinois, you can get like a $4,000 rebate if you file all the proper paperwork. And then apparently you can get like a $7,500 rebate from federal taxpayers if you get an electric vehicle. But are electric vehicles the panacea here? Or are there some serious concerns about the minerals and materials and raw earth elements that are being mined in very poor conditions using borderline human slave labor to mine these things? Do you have concerns about all of that? I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. That's the phone number here with Springfield's Morning News. You can also email bishoponair@gmail.com, or you can find me on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, where you can also watch the show live each and every morning from 6 to 9. But there's a story out about electric vehicle integration, and it could mean a loss of revenue for the state. And that's because if you have a whole host of electric vehicles, how are you going to pay for roads? Because you don't have the gas taxes that are being paid for by those who drive electric vehicles all over the place. And then you get to, if that's not going to pay for the roads, what about paying by mile? Oh, there's an idea we've talked about before in the past here in Illinois. Pay by mile. But some of the problems there, you've got civil libertarians saying they don't want to be tracked exactly where they are, and that's what this would ultimately do, is allow for you to be tracked everywhere you go. And listen, I know you carry a cell phone around with you. It tracks you where you go. You can disable a lot of that. I don't know if you're going to be able to disable the tracking for track by mile and pay by mile, nor will you be able to, with a new electric vehicle, be able to unplug it from the grid. So I think that's why some people want to stick with their 1985 gas guzzler, or they want to stick with their older vehicle that uses oil, because it gives them a sense of freedom. And in this country, our freedom of mobility is crucial. It's important, and it's something I think a lot of people are going to push back against if they're somehow pigeonholed into accepting electric vehicles. What do you think about all this? Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Well, I think it's a proven fact that it does more harm to good to create a battery for an electric vehicle that's only going to last about 8 to 10 years, and then you got to replace, and it destroys more of the environment. It makes zero sense. Plus, what's making the electricity for the electric vehicles?
Well, yeah, exactly right. Is it going to be coal-fired power plants that we're importing from outside of Illinois after all our coal-fired power plants are shut down per edict from the state legislature and the governor? Or is it going to be from nuclear that people oppose? Or is it going to be from wind and solar that you just can't get enough of? But yeah, that's a great question, and I don't think people have an answer to that at this time. Is it going to be nuclear fusion, which apparently the World Economic Forum is going to want to tackle that? But even then, what do you do if the power grid goes down and you've got emergencies? You need to move some big trees that are knocked down. You need to get somebody to a triage center. You're going to be able to do that with battery packs that you can't charge because the electricity's out? No, you're going to be able to do that with a diesel truck or with some other gas-powered vehicle. So I don't know if the concerns have been eased when it comes to those particular issues. Good morning. You're on WMAY. Your thoughts on the push for EVs and the idea of pay per mile, or how you're going to be tracked and traced everywhere you go, and that's all going to be done with electric vehicles.
Hey, Greg, how are you today?
Good. Yourself?
I'm good. I don't have anything intrinsically against electric vehicles. If they work and they can compete with what we have, then, I kind of welcome them to the marketplace. But what we're seeing here is there's an awful lot of big money that is being donated to the political class, who then apportions all these loans out to these various, companies. And I just, I just think it's inevitable. I think it's already happened, in fact, that their finger goes on the scale when you start weighing the pluses and minuses of this. Just one thought. You're talking about the gas tax. Of course, they don't pay anything, so they're freeloaders, really. And the other thing is, electric cars are way, way, way heavier. I mean, a small electric car weighs as much as an F-150. The batteries are very heavy, but the point is they tear the hell out of the roads.
Right.
And, much more than a regular car or SUV would. And, believe me, I was in the business. The mining of the resources needed for the batteries makes oil drilling look like, making cupcakes. And I just think there's a lot of questions. But what really bothers me is that the government's in on this. There's a lot of people that are political players that are making a lot of money on this, including our energy secretary, who's a part owner in one of these electrical things. And I just think that all of that has put the fingers on the scale, and they're willfully not looking at some of the minuses of electric vehicles.
No, it's great insight. Everything from the tax incentives that are being offered to big companies to come in and set up shop, to the tax incentives being offered for consumers to buy those vehicles, and all the unanswered questions about, what do you do in times of emergency, and will our energy grid be able to handle all of the influx of new electric vehicles on our roadways? But we're seeing, of course, reports about how if we go more electric vehicles, you're going to have a loss of revenue for roads. And then that might lead into the push for having track your mileage and track where you're going with pay by the mile instead of pay for gas taxes. So these are conversations that are going to continue, and I want to hear from you at 217-629-7970. I got full phone lines. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Morning, Greg. Couple things. Elon Musk has already been tracking everything because he has been making more detailed roadmaps for the Tesla cars because he wants to make sure that everybody can, have their own car drive them. And so every time you're driving, you are increasing that map knowledge. Yeah. And then another one is all of the nickel that is mined to make these batteries for the cars. I mean, especially whenever Prius came out first, they were like, oh, we're doing great for the environment. No, you're actually hindering it a little bit more because
well, it's not just nickel, it's coltan. There are coltan mines where you got places in the Congo of young kids making less than $1 a day to go into these just deplorable conditions to mine this mineral that's used for batteries. And that's we like to say that we don't like slavery, and the history of slavery in this country is abhorrent, and it absolutely is, but there's modern day slavery going on in astronomical amounts all over the globe, and one area it's happening is in mining these precious minerals for electric vehicle batteries or other types of batteries. Got a couple more calls, got to get them in. Good morning, you're on WMAY.
Hi, Greggy. Real quick, they found out remember when we got 10 below zero here? Well, they found out that electric batteries, which has liquids in them, when it got down that cold, they would not take a charge. Yeah. Because basically, I have a bicycle that I put 20,000 miles on, and they said, do not let the batteries freeze. how are they going to handle this in Alaska and up north and everything?
Well, especially, again, when you get to some of those areas where you have to respond in emergencies, either it be getting somebody to the hospital or cutting a log out of the way or, removing a bunch of snow from a roadway. Doing this with electric vehicles, it might work for a little bit, but if the power grid's down and you can't recharge your snow plow, what are you going to do? Appreciate the call. One last one. If you're still there, good morning. You're on WMAY.
Yeah, could you imagine the size of these truck stops will be if they electrify?
They're already doing it. Elon Musk has launched already electric semi-trucks. Now, it doesn't have near the hauling capacity that diesel trucks have, but that's on the way. It's already here. I would imagine you'll start seeing a lot more of those in the years ahead.
Well, Ford, not Ford, but Honda and President Toyota says the grid won't be ready by 2035 because it can't handle it.
Well, we'll see what happens, and we'll keep you posted on all of that and get your thoughts as well here with Springfield's Morning News on WMAY. Greatly appreciate everyone taking time to chime in here and come